Hello and welcome back. I'm going to be going over some of the features of Phpstorm. I figured that there's a lot of great little shortcuts that sometimes you just kind of learn over time, and I figured why not put it into a video. We might actually have multiple of these videos with different little steps. So without further ado, Phpstorm is a great IDE for everything web-based. A lot of people kind of wonder, why are we using Phpstorm when we do everything in Node and JavaScript or React? The reason why is because Phpstorm has all the features of WebStorm, which is your traditional editor for React applications and Node.js. It also has the database tools built in where you can actually use them. And so that's why we kind of go with Phpstorm versus WebStorm. And it's only, I think, a few dollars more. But without further ado, let's go through some of the kind of capabilities and features and fun stuff. So obviously with Phpstorm, you have your project files over here. One of the things that I like to do quite often is just be able to jump to different files. And so the keyboard shortcut for that I use quite often, and again, these are going to be different for Mac, but it's Ctrl+Shift+N to kind of open for files. And from there, you can just start searching. And let's say I'm looking for a page like account page, and from there I just use the up and down arrows, hit enter, and now I have my account page open up. Another common one is the kind of go to open file. So I've actually remapped this for Alt-G to go to, but I think by default it's Ctrl+F12, but you can hit Alt-G to do that. So that's kind of one of the nice kind of keyboard shortcuts. A lot of times though, one of the things you're trying to do is you're trying to find across your entire project certain text that you might be looking for. So with that, we'll do Ctrl+Shift+F, and from here, let me move this over. You can just find in files across all your files, and then you can just start typing account page, and you'll be able to see all of these different things. What's neat is that this is an actual editor that you can actually make modifications in, and so a lot of times when I'm actually looking to do something across multiple files, I'll just actually search for a common phrase, find it, make a change there, go to the next one, make a change there, and so on and so forth. When you're inside the file and you just wanted to search in this one, instead of Ctrl+Shift+F, you would just use Ctrl+F. That puts this little search bar at the top, and from here you can type account page and hit enter to continue on, or F3 to kind of keep searching over and over and until you get to the bottom. You obviously have your search results right up there. You can go up and down with that. Inside of a page, let's say my task was I would want to search for everywhere where there's a box and change it. One of the cool things that you have with Phpstorm is, I don't know what this is like a multi-select, but basically you press Alt-J and it highlights where your cursor is with this little blue box. But if you hit Alt-J again, it goes and finds the next one and puts a second cursor there, Alt-J, Alt-J, and then from there, now you can just use your regular cursors, and you can, let's say we had fancy box was what we were trying to change it to. And so now all of those cursors updated at the same time. When you're ready to escape out of that mode, press escape and you're back down to just regular single cursor. I'm just going to undo that. Another way to get multiple cursors, since we're talking about multiple cursors, is to use the control. So if you double tap the control, or tap it once and then a second time, but you hold it down. So tap once, twice, and then if you use your cursors, let's see, and you can kind of go up and down with that and basically put down cursors everywhere from there. And from here I can hit like home or home again and shift tab, all those things over, and now you've got basically all that stuff tabbed out on the end. Obviously you wouldn't really want to do this a whole lot. It doesn't make sense in this context, but it is there for you. Sometimes if I'm going to try to change everything at the end, I might then hit end on there, and move all those cursors in one, and so on and so forth. So I'm just again going to undo all that stuff that we have here, hit escape. Next one that I actually like quite a bit is the expansion selection feature. So let's say I am trying to find some good section right here, but let's say I put my cursor there, and if I press Ctrl W, that will take where my cursor is and expand select out to the first stopping point. In this case, it stopped at this greater than less than. If I hit Ctrl W again, it actually brings it out and selects that. If I hit it again, it selects this whole statement. If I hit it again, it selects everything there. And you can just kind of keep on pressing Ctrl W until you get to where you want, and then delete or do what you need from there. So Ctrl W is actually quite a bit nice one. One of the things that I find that kind of separates the good developers from the bad developers is the amount of keyboard shortcuts they learn, and their speediness around their IDEs. I find that using a mouse really kind of slows down somebody's speed at which they're kind of navigating around. And so what you can do is you can actually, for files obviously to kind of go to different ones, you can Ctrl+Shift+N and find the About Me page. And there I have it selected. But if you have any tabs up here, you can actually navigate between the two of them by using Control left and Control right, or Alt left, Alt right, and be able to basically navigate from those ones. And sometimes when I have lots of files open, let me just go and open up other ones by just kind of navigating to them. Let's say that I've got a lot of these files open, but the main ones I'm working on right now are the About Me page and the About page SCSS, so, or account page. Well, just these two. So what I like to do is I like to right click on them and pin them as tabs. And so now they stay flushed over here on the left. And so I would do that, and I would pin maybe the SCSS file, and now those ones are there. And what it happens is if you have a file selected, and if you go open up a new file, by clicking on that, you can see that it keeps those pin tabs over here left aligned on there. And so it doesn't, you don't always have those kind of there, and you have your pin tabs up. One thing you can do is you can right click also, you can close all of them but the pin tabs. And so if you wanted to kind of clear it back out to get it to where you just have the original two files you're working on, you're free to do that as well. One of the things that happens quite a bit is that we work with line endings in our files, and what we're trying to do is we try to keep a consistent ending. And real quick brief synopsis on what I mean by line endings. Essentially, in a text editor, all these the text characters that you see here, the visible ones are easy to represent in a file. If you think about if you had to create a file from scratch, you would have TOP for top. But the tab character is what we have right here, and that is obviously an invisible character as far as the representation of it. And so a tab character just shows up as white space that you can just kind of move your cursor, and it skips, in my case, the equivalent of 4 spaces there. But a new line or a line ending is what essentially says to an editor that, hey, from here on, if I want one more space, it actually is a new line and it's kind of left a line. And what happened was Linux, or Unix, essentially, it was Unix, came up with the notion that we're going to use line feeds for that. And so that would be /R for kind of carriage returns, and then N for lines feeds. And whereas Windows, Bill Gates and his gloriness, decided that they're going to use /R/N for representing those. And so again, these are not characters that you see, but effectively they are carriage return and line feeds that kind of wrap it. And so we can see down here in your editor is that this file is set up to have line feeds as its ending. And And whereas Mac or Linux, Unix has just kind of the carriage returns only. And so what that happens is if you had somebody that edited this file in Mac and they saved it and all of the line feeds, basically all the line endings actually changed to the carriage return, and then somebody edited it also in Windows and they tried to merge those in GitLab, there would be a ton of line conflicts with that. And so with that, we always try to stick with line feeds for our usage. So again, a quick thing to do is just check down here in Phpstorm, make sure you're in line feed mode. The great thing though is we have set up with our prettier, our script that runs on every single commit to basically force the end of lines to line feeds is the way that we have in there. Okay, what I want to do now is I want to go over some of the database tools that you have in Phpstorm. So we have over here our database, and in this case I have two different types of database, production and sandbox. One of the things that I like to do is I like to color code your different databases, and you can do that by right-clicking on a database and coming down to color settings, and from there you have a number of different colors you can choose from. Typically I like to use green for sandbox, so it's green, it's okay to edit it and mess stuff up. Ideally you wouldn't, but it's okay. Whereas kind of this rose color is what I typically like to go with for production. And what that does though is when you open up a table in the editor, so if I expand this down and open up a table, you can see that the table over here, everything has this kind of rose color to kind of give you that warning of make sure you know what you're doing when you're editing this. With the sandbox tables, you open up something and you'll see the same that's over here. So the next thing I want to show is large tables that have lots of columns. Sometimes they become a pain in the butt to kind of see what's going on there. And so I'm going to open up a company variables table that historically has lots of columns. You can see as I scroll across here. And one of the things that's kind of neat that you can do with these tools here, I'm going to expand this just a little bit so we can see a little bit more, is we can transpose this table. And transpose means obviously to rotate it 90 degrees. And so if you come up here to the eye, you can go to actually transpose, and now all those columns are here, which is, it's still a number of rows, but you can usually have some more vertical space to kind of see that rather than the different columns. And then the columns now become what was originally the rows. So in this case, this would be the company IDs or the row numbers that go across for each company, and you can kind of come down here and see that. The next thing though is, let's say you were on a table, and I'm just going to go to the user table, and I wanted to quickly be able to jump to, like the billing zip code. And if I was at the front here, I'd have to kind of step through each one, look at each column. Well, a really nice keyboard shortcut is Ctrl+F12 in there, and then you can just start typing billing zip code and then hit enter, and it jumps automatically right to that column, has that selected. So that one's really nice to be able to jump to the different, obviously, columns. The final item that I wanted to show was the Git tools, and since I'm going to be working down here into the bottom section, I obviously hid my pretty face there, but what I want to show is that these tools are actually really amazing. They're great for seeing stuff. You can click down here and you can see the different branches that are in your repository. You can click on any of them. So for example, the dev branch there with that little arrow means that there are changes on the origin that is not in here yet. And maybe I can squeeze up the browser just a little bit with that. Let me see. So there we go. And so I can click on that, and of course the menu pops out, but I'm just going to say update, and it'll actually fetch, pull down the data, update the branch. That's all great and neat. You can obviously click on a commit. You can see the changes in here. It's very fast, very responsive. If you double click on a file, you can have the editor actually pop up here and show the changes that were in there and in that commit down for that file. And obviously you can click on a different file and see the changes that were made there, and so on and so forth. Over here is another representation of the kind of the same branches that were listed there, where you can actually come in. You can right click on any of these. You can say checkout or merge or rebase, all the fun little options. And obviously you've got your sorting. You can sort by just only show certain branch types here, and kind of the history of them as they go down there. Select all. Console is actually kind of nice to see sometimes. If you actually push a merge, push a branch up to GitLab, the return response will usually have a URL that you can click on that will actually, if you click on that, it'll open up a browser. You can actually just generate your merge request directly from there. So that's a kind of a little shortcut from there. The last thing would be sometimes you got to go into files and figure out what happened or how long this has maybe been changed. You can right click on this and say open annotation or close annotation on the side gutter over here. And then you can actually see the each line and when that line was actually updated, by who, the date it was, and you can actually click on it and it'll jump to the actual commit down there, or you can right click on it and you can show the difference, and you can see that, hey, this thing changed to there by this commit. You can kind of see what other commits or changes might have happened in that same one. So the last thing that I want to show is the live template capability. This is actually very useful. If I come into a project, and then let me go back to a React style project, and let's say I'm creating a new file or a new component, and this is my test component.tsx. One of the things that you guys have probably seen in some of the videos is I'll type new component up here, and that is my special little live template that I wrote, that if I hit enter, now I can just start typing test component there. And the way that this works is it's in your settings. You come to file settings, and you come down to the, let's see, I think it's an editor, live templates. And they have a number of different languages that they've already kind of put in here. They actually have a number for React, but I found it to be kind of the older class-based React, and so I've unchecked those ones. And I created my own group. So you come down here and you create a template group. You can type in, my custom, and just hit OK. And from there, you can actually right-click, click over here and click a new template. And so let's just create one, super, and this does some super stuff. If I come down here, I would basically, normally I'd kind of code this in an editor already and have kind of what I'm planning out, but let's just say we're going to have it create a asynchronous function with and we're gonna use these template variables in here, or these live template variables, and I'm gonna say argument1, and that would be kind of the name, and then I would just kind of have it jump to argument2 for when I hit tab on it, and maybe this is always of a type fancy. And if we come down here and I want it to just basically console log arg2, and when I want to end it, I'll just kind of put an end down there, but I do want to have it kind of close off over here. And so that's it for kind of my live template. It just kind of make it very simple like that. And I would come down to the context that this live template makes the most sense. So I could say, well, this should be in JavaScript and TypeScript, and probably TypeScript by itself. I don't really know the difference between JavaScript, TypeScript, but it is in there. So I hit OK. And so if we come up here now, and if I type super, you can see what it did was it actually inserted all my code right there, and I can type in my super function, and if I hit tab, it jumps me to that next place. And so I'd say Jim, and you can see as I type down there, it actually fills in, because that was both arg2 and arg2 down there. Finally I hit tab and it puts me right at the end there, so I can console log something else. So That's about it. I think this video's gone long enough. Hopefully this was helpful, and I'm sure there's lots of things that I'm missing out here. Maybe we'll do a second video with more advanced features. So hopefully this is helpful. Thanks.